Welcome to the Fleet Geeks podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoy the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook?
3. So the red light's rolling. We are here early morning recording some podcasts. Mr. Mike and I having a bit of a chat over StreamYard. Fantastic, mate, isn't it? Fantastic to be here, mate. Nowhere better to be than recording a podcast. It's my favourite part of the week, mate.
The things we do for our dear listeners, and we're out and about early on a Saturday morning and recording Fleet Geek podcast. That's the living the high life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to talk today about driver defects and driver defect reporting this session. Mike has been prepping a new driver walk-around check driver CPC half-day modular course for a client, which we're doing specifically for them. Quick plug is something that flagship partners do offer if you're interested. It's a fantastic way of getting your drivers engaged, and you'd be amazed what doing a bit of branding on a PowerPoint presentation would do for driver engagement when they see that it's specific and relevant for their job. But either way, something came to light during the preparation for that course, didn't it, Mike? Around a bit of uncertainty around driver defect reporting, what should be reported and what must be reported. And then we also came across particularly a certain driver check app coming across as whether something was safety or non-safety related. As opposed to probably the preferred terminology of roadworthy or unroadworthy. Am I sort of hitting the nail on the head there, Mike? Is that sort of where you're at? So tell me a bit more. Tell me a bit more about the safety versus non-safety, and then roadworthy versus unroadworthy. I think is a good starting point.
So absolutely, and I think we have to be as transport managers, we have to be careful when we are giving drivers instruction. Drivers have, it's almost the right, isn't it, to have clear instruction from us, what they want us to do. And I always emphasize this in any training I do, that it is incumbent on us to make sure that drivers are trained to do a walk around check. And that might seem difficult sometimes teaching, I hate that saying, but teaching your grandmother to suck eggs, and you get the driver, I've been driving 30 years, how are you going to tell me how to check a vehicle? And I think in some cases it probably isn't, there are certainly cases where drivers need to be shown how to check a vehicle and what a tyre looks like, what a wheel looks like. But the vast majority of drivers, I think, can work that out for themselves. But I think the ambiguity lies in when does something become reportable and how it's reported? And I think that's where the ambiguity lies. And I would challenge anybody who's operating vehicles out there to ask your drivers, just say to your drivers, look, by way of a sort of audit, what do you do in your driver walk around check? How do you do it? What do you do? What would you report? What wouldn't you report? How do you report it? And I tell you what, I think you'd probably be surprised. You get several different answers from your drivers where you might think that you've got a great system in place. But so the ambiguity, and I think it's kind of on a lot of these systems we see, it's a choice of language that they use. And this particular one was the drivers had an opportunity to choose between safety and non-safety related defects. Where when I did a little bit of digging, what it actually comes down to is roadworthy or not roadworthy, and that is different from safe and unsafe. And I'll give you an example. If a driver's got a dodgy tyre, so let's say there's a split in the tyre, a tear in the tyre, and the cords are exposed, that would be unroadworthy, and it would also be unsafe. So there's a nice clear distinction. So you'd expect the driver to know, that vehicle would not be leaving that yard that day. And I think that's the line, isn't it? But that's what we're trying to get drivers to filter out. Is it safe for me to take this vehicle out on the road today? Would that vehicle be unroadworthy? Should I take it past the gates and get a pull or whatever, or worst case, an accident happens and it's found to be a defective tyre. Now, what if one of my cameras wasn't working? Well, what if my reversing camera wasn't working? Would I still take the vehicle out? Would I mark that vehicle down as being unroadworthy? So that vehicle would potentially still be roadworthy because it's not a legal requirement. However, the vehicle is unsafe. It could potentially be unsafe in certain circumstances. So, I mean, if you were going to do, some reversing,
it becomes a safety. It does become a safety related defect because the camera is there as I've forgotten what the term is for post fitment, aftermarket fitment to improve safety. That's what it's there for, isn't it? So it's a safety related
down
defect.
as safe with it not working. Why fit it in the first place?
Absolutely, but it'd pass its MOT without it.
Would pass an MOT and it would pass muster with a DVSA. So they're not going to check your camera. They're going to look at it. They don't care about it. Well, I'm not saying they don't care about your cameras, but it doesn't come in their remit. It's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is a tricky one, and if drivers are not clear, if you're not clear with drivers on what you want them to do and not do, what you're going to end up with as a transport manager, from bitter experience, what you're going to end up with is phone calls at 4 o'clock in the morning. I've got, my camera's not working. I can't get one of the cameras. Do I take the vehicle out or not? Which I suppose is a good thing because the driver has had the presence of mind to phone you up in the morning, phone you up, but you're not going to get many good night's sleep if that keeps going on, are you? So
it's a really tricky thing, isn't it? Because you want them to be able to report defects and for you to be able to deal with them on a timely manner. But at the same time, you need to have a way of protecting yourself from out of hours calls as well, haven't you? Because that's not good for anyone from a stress point of view, is it?
And then you've got to make that decision. Do you tell the driver, it's okay to go out like that? And then, should something happen later on that day, it's going to be, the driver's reversed over somebody, something terrible's happened, and you've got a problem. That's the debate that we have to have in our own heads. And we have to do a risk assessment, and we literally have to do one on the hoof. So you say to the driver, "What you got on? What are you doing today?" Well, I'm just trunking up the motorway to Barnsley or wherever, and I'm coming back again. So the chances are you're not going to really need the reversing cameras or even the proximity cameras if it was one of them that was to be faulty. If that driver would say, "Well, actually, I've got to go down to London. I'm delivering in the West End," then we've got a different.
Hi, it's Pete from Flagship Partners. We're really proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast. Flagship Partners offer a range of consultancy and training services to ensure that our customers remain compliant and have the best possible knowledge to be able to fulfill their work. If you're interested in support with any of our safety, HR or compliance services, or you want to train to be a transport manager or need driver CPC training, give us a call today.
Different ball game, haven't we? We've got a different risk.
Absolutely. I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because to an extent, I think people will be listening and going, "But I can't predict every potential eventuality." However, and that is true. But on the other hand, all the time we carry out what you're saying, dynamic risk assessments. A risk assessment of what is the exact example at this point? What are the risks involved? How likely is there to be an issue? And like you say, the two different situations really, really vary. But I think it'd be a really prudent thing for fleet and transport managers to sit down and consider what, for them on their type of work, what are the mandatory requirements for drivers. So this is the stuff we're going to park vehicles up for.
Yeah.
This is the stuff we're going to let go and repair at the earliest opportunity. And they could almost have a checklist, couldn't they, of things?
Yeah. Totally.
And that'd be a referral sort of checklist. That's not about. I've just literally come up with that.
No, that's a cracking thought. That sort of have a. I know we don't want to overburden with people with policies and what have you, but kind of as you say, like have a checklist. It would actually
a cheat sheet or something in the cab would be great, wouldn't it? Or on a phone or something like that. If you got that,
absolutely. It might surprise our listeners to know, and as if you followed these, you'll know that I'm a bit of an aviation geek, and it might surprise people to know that there is quite a list of things that an aircraft can fly, depending on type, of course. Yeah, all aircrafts are different. There is a list of things, faults that aircraft can legally fly with. But there's a checklist, like all pilots have checklists for everything, don't they? So, if they found something, a warning light, or some part of the equipment wasn't working correctly, there is a checklist that they can go through to say, yeah, it's reportable, but it's still okay to take out on the roads. And I think that's a great shout, Pete. As an operator, your operation better than anybody. So draw yourself up a little, no go sort of thing, and then convey that to your drivers. I suppose
and keep it as simple as possible. But I think the key thing for transport managers is to remember is that key differentiation that you've just made between safety and non-safety related. For example, you have safety related items like cameras, like, for example, the bar that you have to grab onto to climb up. Those things are safety related. But aren't related to roadworthiness, and ultimately differentiating between roadworthiness, what is roadworthy and unroadworthy, what will pass or fail an MOT. That is a decision as to whether you VOR something, but also, do you have company policies in place? For example, if in a lot of companies, if a guard is broken on a machine, or there's a step broken on a ladder or something like that, because I see all sorts of vehicles driving around. They've got steps damaged, for example. Steps damaged from an incident.
Not a roadworthiness issue, unless it was loose or jagged or something. But yeah.
However, as your safety person had an input, because actually, would you use a damaged ladder? And and this is something I think I implore operators to really, really think about in advance. I think and probably do a bit of a plan, because it's not as easy to just replace a ladder as what it is to replace a damaged step on a vehicle that's maybe not safe. But the last thing you want to do as a driver, you've got a 25, 30 stone hoofing driver coming in and out on a broken step, and if they.
And you'd be surprised how many accidents happen like that, and as you say, how many broken steps there are. Tippers are particularly.
I must say, I don't know if a broken step would be roadworthy or unroadworthy.
Well, I suppose it
depends. It depends on the sharp edges. It depends on the condition of the step once it's damaged.
Again, it's difficult for a driver. Bear in mind they're under a bit of pressure. It's probably in a yard. It's dark. It's early morning. Everybody wants to get out the yard. To make a decision, I've got a step that's broken. In some cases, that step might be a roadworthiness issue, because it might offer, as you say, jagged edges, or be loose and likely to be detached. Or it might just be missing, a lot not there at all. And it's not going to be a roadworthiness issue if it's not there at all. So it's a difficult call for drivers to make, isn't it, under that sort of pressure? And I think there's another element to this as well. And the other element is drivers over-reporting things, which it's very difficult to knock a driver for over-reporting something. But I'll tell you what happens. Drivers will report stuff that isn't really even safety or roadworthiness related, but they'll report them and they'll put them on the sheet. And then the next day, when miraculously the workshop haven't fixed it overnight, I'm driving up the M6 and I can't get Ken Bruce on my radio because it goes all crackly just at that point. And then the next day they'll think, well, I reported that yesterday, and they've still not done nothing about it. And then they'll keep on reporting it. And then eventually they'll say, I never bother reporting anything because nothing ever gets done. How many times? I bet you've heard that a million times, Pete.
A million times, mate. A million times. And you are absolutely right, because there's another category of stuff which isn't safety related, isn't roadworthy related, but will really fuck your drivers off.
Yeah, exactly.
And that category is things like, so I've got a specific one at the moment around a door seal. A vehicle's been repainted and the door seals have been refitted, and they're crap. And so they're leaking water in.
And they're whistling.
It's not, exactly, and they're noisy. Yeah. So it's not safety related, it's not roadworthy or unroadworthy issue, but it's really fucking the driver off.
Yeah.
It's those things that I also implore operators, just get them fixed, because at the earliest opportunity, or at least reassure your driver you're gonna, you're on it, because there's nothing gonna fuck drivers off more than those things.
But I think it's honesty as well with drivers. It's phoning Bob. Let's use Bob as phoning Bob up that day and saying, "Oh, Bob, I see you've reported a door seal today. Yes, pal. What's the problem?" Getting the lowdown on the problem, and then saying, "Well, look, pal, we ain't going to fix it tonight. We ain't going to fix it tomorrow. But next time it goes in for a PM, or next time it goes in for a service, or what have you, or next time it's in the workshop, we'll get it sorted, mate." And that, otherwise, Bob's just going to keep writing it down and then he's just going to say, and then the next time there's a wheel hanging off, he's going to say, "Well, no, I'm not going to bother reporting it because I won't do anything about it."
Yeah, so no one ever does anything. Exactly. So you've got to communicate that strategy to drivers, haven't you? So they've got to understand. They've got to, because a lot of drivers, like you say, and this is, I'm getting quite sort of revved up about it, but a lot of drivers just see a defect as a defect, don't they? So I've reported a defect, therefore you should repair it. And actually, in reality, not all defects are made equal, are they?
And that's a great point. But that's a great point. It's not black and white. Like a lot of what we do in our world, it's not black and white. There's a lot of coloured edges around it, isn't there? And but you've got, as a transport professional, as a transport manager, you've got to A, understand that, and B, communicate that to your drivers. Otherwise, you're going to get this impasse between, what's great. I mean, like we can all, Actually, I can't say this because I've got a new car, haven't I, Pete? So it's perfect. I can't find anything wrong with it. But, it's like, we all know as car drivers, we have these little foibles and little things that we want. Oh, there's a little squeak or a little glove box rattle or something. Well, and we'd like to, that annoys us and we want it fixed. But, we're not going to get done overnight, are we? That's the problem. But it's interesting one. But yeah, that's a really, really good thoughts, isn't it? And that got me thinking, actually, developing that course really got me thinking about what two things I would recommend to transport managers if you haven't already got this, even if you're not mechanically minded or don't come from that sort of background. One is to get yourself a copy of the MOT Testers Manual for HGVs. A little bit heavy reading, to be fair, if you're not technical. But I suppose the better one would probably be the categorization of defects. I think that's a must-have. And that will help you to understand and help your drivers understand what it is that will stop them going out the gate in the morning. Without a shadow of a doubt, this defect you're not going anywhere. Don't try to get through to midday or dinner time or this afternoon when you come back in the yard. This ain't going anywhere. And those two are really, really good because essentially that's what the DVSA are going to be using at the side of the road. So those two publications for me are must-haves.
Yeah,
definitely.
Perfect. Mate, great podcast. I hope people have enjoyed it. And how do you manage your driver defects? How do you support that? Sometimes a cheeky WhatsApp message just to acknowledge, particularly on something that's non-safety related, non-safety related, not a roadworthiness issue, but might be a point of driver frustration. A cheeky WhatsApp to recognise, okay, pick that up, we'll sort it at the next service or what have you. Do we need to sort it before then for you? Is it causing you that much aggravation? That's always worth a shout to, isn't it, mate? Anyway, fantastic.
I'll tell you what, we're going to pick up at the end of these podcasts what we've got, because we're doing some of this will go out on YouTube. I think it all goes out on YouTube, doesn't it? But obviously some of it, you've got the cap there. Like, subscribe, and what's the other one? Can't remember now.
Comment?
That's it. Comment, like, and subscribe. That's it.
There we go. Hit the subscribe button below, guys. Hit the subscribe button below.
We've got to get into that. Yeah.
Fantastic, brilliant, mate. All right. See you on the next one. Cheers.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.